Welcome to Starbound. My name's the Voice Ogre, and I'll be your narrator today. Nearly 500 supporters get early access to our stories, including brand new stories of Sunspire Academy, which I happen to do, and Freyrin and Rimiki. If you'd like to unlock early access and support new episodes and future series, tap Join below to become a Starbound member. Now, let's get into today's story. Cal Reed's heartbeat could probably be heard from orbit. At least, that's what it felt like as he slipped into the lecture hall. Duffel bag clutched against his chest like a shield.
Play it cool,
he told himself, navigating the tiered seating.
You're just a normal human exchange student carrying a completely normal bag that definitely doesn't contain any prohibited life forms.
The bag wiggled.
Shh,
he hissed, then caught himself. 3 Genovac students turned their crystalline heads his way, photoreceptors flickering with curiosity. Cal forced a smile.
It's just talking about homework. Earth thing, you wouldn't understand.
They turned away, apparently filing this under Weird Human Behavior Subcategory 73B. Cal had made it exactly 3 weeks at Galactic Unit Academy without causing a major diplomatic incident. This was a record among human exchange students. The orientation packet had been very clear about that statistic, right after the section on acceptable protein sources and before the warning about inadvertently starting cults. He found his usual seat, middle row, left side, optimal for both note-taking and quick exits, and carefully placed the duffel between his feet. Inside, Riot made a small whimpering sound that Cal's universal translator helpfully interpreted as expression of mild discontent.
I know, girl,
he whispered.
It's just another hour, and then we can...
Mr. Reed.
Professor Clitra's voice cut through the pre-class chatter like a laser through soft butter. All 4 of her arms were crossed, which Cal had learned meant either extreme disappointment or moderate constipation. With Thalaxi, it was hard to tell.
How generous of you to join us.
Wouldn't miss it, Professor.
Cal slid into his seat, accidentally kicking his bag. It yipped. He coughed loudly.
I love me some xenotheology.
The professor's 6 eyes narrowed. Never a good sign. But before she could interrogate him further, the lights dimmed. The holoscreen flickered to life, and Clikstra shifted into what Cal privately called lecture mode.
Today,
she announced, her voice taking on that special academic tone that meant everyone should be taking notes.
We explored the most fascinating and disturbing aspects of human culture.
A few students perked up. Humans were still relatively new to the galactic community, having achieved FTL travel only 50 years ago. Everything about them was considered either quaint or terrifying, with very little middle ground.
Can anyone guess?
Clickstra's mandibles clicked with anticipation.
Their recreational poisoning rituals?
Suggested a Velthari.
That's next week. Anyone else?
Their ability to survive injuries that would kill any sensible species.
Tried a Morteki.
Week 6.
Oh,
a gelatinous Clicks wobbled with excitement.
We're pack bonding with inanimate objects.
Close.
The professor activated the holoscreen.
They're pack bonding with predators.
The first slide showed a human child hugging what looked like a small bear. Several students made distressed noises. It wasn't even a real bear. It was just a teddy.
Throughout the galaxy,
Clikstra began, pacing with the practiced movements of someone who'd given this lecture a dozen times.
Most sapient species domesticate prey animals or symbiotic partners. The Jakindi cultivate moss. The Helians sing to their coral gardens. Even the warrior Moteki keep nectarbuds for their soothing harmonics.
Click. New slide. A human jogging with 4-legged creatures.
Humans,
she paused for effect.
Domesticated wolves.
The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Cal bit his lip to keep from laughing. Inside his bag, Riot had discovered his emergency granola bar and was now conducting a crinkly investigation.
Consider the absurdity, Kleekstra continued. 10,000 Earth years ago, primitive Earth humans looked at creatures that actively hunted them, and they thought, yes, they will live in my shelter. I will share my food with it, and I will love it as a family.
That is insane,
breathed the Threnody.
That is human,
the professor corrected.
and it gets worse.
Click. A new slide. Statistics that made Cal proud and everyone else horrified.
Modern Earth dogs retain 98% of their wolf genetics. They possess superior hearing, night vision, and a sense of smell 10,000 times more acute than their human companions. They have been selectively bred for tasks ranging from combat to detection to emotional support.
Someone in the back made a strangled sound.
Emotional support? From a predator?
Indeed, humans have weaponized affection.
Kleekstra was really warming to her subject now.
These creatures will die for their humans, kill for them. They experience what Earth psychologists call separation anxiety when apart from their pack.
Cal shifted uncomfortably. He'd been dealing with his own separation anxiety since arriving at the academy. Not to mention Riot's, which was part of why Riot was stuffed into a bag and not at home. The vast distances between stars meant no real-time calls home, no familiar faces, no... A wet nose poked out of his back.
No.
Furthermore,
the professor continued, oblivious.
these dogs demonstrate complex emotional intelligence. They read human facial expressions. They respond to verbal and nonverbal commands. They have been documented sensing seizures, cancers, and emotional distress before symptoms manifest.
She clicked to a new slide. Military and police dogs in action. The class collectively flinched.
Observe the Belgian Malinois, bred specifically for protection work. Their bite force can get up to 238 pounds per square inch. Sprint speed 48 kilometers per hour. Trained to neutralize threats with lethal efficiency.
The holovid showed a training exercise. A dog launching itself at a padded human, jaws locking onto an arm. Even knowing it was practice, several students covered their sensory organs.
Humans keep these inside their homes?
Not just inside.
Click. A golden retriever sleeping in a child's bed. The disgust was palpable.
They share sleeping quarters. They allow themselves near their offspring.
A tiny sneeze interrupted her. The lecture hall went silent. 300 alien eyes, compound and simple, swiveled toward the sound. Cal felt time slow down, the way it does when you're about to fail a test, or walk into a glass door, or explain to alien security why you thought sneaking a puppy onto a space station was a good idea. His back moved. Not a subtle shift, not a gentle readjustment. A full-body wiggle followed by the distinctive sound of a zipper being pawed open from the inside.
No,
Cal whispered. But Riot had already made her decision. 8 weeks old, roughly the size and shape of a fuzzy potato, she emerged from the sack like some kind of adorable alien chestburster. Her tail, a traitorous appendage, wagged so hard her entire back end swayed. She hopped into Cal's lap to get a better look at things. She looked around the lecture hall with the confused delight of someone who had napped through their stop and woken up in Wonderland. Her head tilted, her tongue lolled out.
Oh,
Cal said, watching his academic career flash before his eyes.
shit.
What followed could only be described as educational pandemonium. The peepney in row 3 screamed, a subsonic pulse that shattered 2 windows in Cal's left eardrum. The Genovacs began flashing emergency patterns that triggered seizures in 2 photosensitive species. Someone's fight-or-flight glands exploded, coating 3 rows in defensive mucus.
Live specimen!
Professor Kleekstra's voice hit registers only dogs and possibly even dolphins could hear.
Live Earth predator in the classroom!
She slammed the panic button with 2 of her 4 hands, while the other 2 fumbled for her communicator. Emergency klaxons wailed. Blast doors began their slow descent. Cal scooped Riot into his arms as chaos erupted. A stampede of tentacles, pseudopods, and other appendages Cal couldn't name rushed the exits. Someone teleported directly through a wall, leaving a them-shaped hole in the smell of ozone.
She's just a puppy!
Cal shouted over the din. Riot, oblivious to the terror she caused, tried to lick his face.
8 weeks old, she can barely walk straight. It has teeth!
Shrieked a student clinging to the ceiling.
So do you!
Cal shot back.
Like, way more than her!
Professor Kleekstra had backed against the holoscreen, all 6 eyes locked on Riot.
Stay back, human. Campus security is en route with containment protocols. Containment? She weighs 4 pounds! You brought an unregistered predator into my classroom! The liability alone! She's registered!
Cal dug into his pocket one-handed, producing a crumpled certificate.
Vaccinated, microchipped, and approved by the Terran Embassy. We're taking an obedience class together. I have the papers! Papers?
The professor's voice cracked.
You have papers for your attack animal! You go to a class for your animal! Well, does it have a higher education as well?
Riot chose that moment to yawn again, then began chewing on Cal's thumb with the dedication of someone who'd just discovered their life's purpose.
Look,
Cal said, holding up the puppy like evidence.
Does this look like an attack animal to you?
The remaining students, maybe 30 brave or paralyzed souls, peered out from behind overturned desks. Riot's tail wagged so hard, her entire back end swayed. She made a small poof sound that might have been threatening if she hadn't immediately sneezed again and tumbled backward into Cal's hands. A gelatinous being Cal recognized as Clicks oozed slightly forward.
It doesn't appear to be attacking.
Because she's not.
Cal set Riot on the floor. She immediately sat on his foot and began chewing her own tail.
She's a baby. A literal baby. And I didn't want to leave her home alone. She gets separation anxiety if I'm gone too long. Babies of most species don't have hunting instincts,
Professor Kleekstra said, though she'd lowered her communicator.
Neither does she. Watch.
Cal pulled out a crumpled napkin from lunch.
Riot, sit.
The puppy looked up, considered her options, then plopped her butt on the ground. Several students gasped. One fainted.
Behavioral conditioning,
someone whispered in horror.
It obeys commands.
She knows like 3 words, Cal protested. Sit, stay, and... He paused.
Actually, that's it. Now we're working on stay.
The blast doors had stopped halfway down, casting the room in emergency amber light. In the distance, Cal could hear security approaching, probably in full hazmat gear, knowing this school.
Perhaps,
said a brave Threnody from behind a desk fortress.
We could observe, for educational purposes.
Professor Kleekstra's 6 eyes narrowed.
Absolutely not. This violates every safety protocol.
You were just showing us holovids of Earth's predators,
Clicks pointed out, gaining confidence as Riot hasn't murdered anyone yet.
This is primary source observation.
The holovids can't bite.
Can she? The Threnody extended a cautious sensory frond.
Bite, I mean.
Cal watched 30 species hold their breath as the fawn approached Riot. The puppy sniffed it, then licked it enthusiastically. The Threnody shrieked, then paused.
Huh? It's wet? Why is it wet? Dogs explore through taste and smell, Cal explained, relaxing slightly. She's saying hello.
Her saliva isn't acidic.
Only to furniture and rawhide. More students crept forward. The brave ones, anyway. The Mortecki twins huddled together, their plating rattling with either fear or excitement. Cal had never learned to tell the difference. A photosynthetic Helian extended what might generously be called a hand, chlorophyll-green fingers trembling. Would she attack if I touch her? The Helian asked. Only with affection, Cal warned. Aggressive affection. The Helian's bioluminescent patches flickered, their species equivalent of raised eyebrows. Aggressive affection. As if on cue, Riot noticed the green appendage and charged. The Helian shrieked, stumbling backward, but Riot had already latched onto their root-like ankle with tiny paws, tail wagging so hard her entire body vibrated. "It's attacking!" someone screamed. "She's hugging," Cal corrected, trying not to laugh at the Helian's expression of terrified confusion. Dogs don't really understand personal space, especially puppies. Our obedience class is working on teaching more self-control, though. Personal space is a fundamental right in 16 galactic constitutions. Professor Kleekstra hadn't moved from her position against the holoscreen, but her academic instincts were clearly warring with her survival ones. This creature violates social contracts simply by existing. Yeah, that sounds like dogs. Cal agreed. The Helian, meanwhile, had stopped trying to escape. It's warm? They sounded genuinely surprised. And the vibration from the tail wagging creates a pleasant harmonic frequency.
You're being Stockholm syndromed by a puppy.
The Peepany from earlier accused, though they'd crept closer to watch.
Is that the term for human pack bonding?
Someone asked. No, that's it. Never mind. Cal gave up. Some concepts didn't translate well. Riot, having conquered the Helian's ankle, moved on to investigate a dropped stylus. She pounced on it with the intensity of a lion taking down a gazelle. If lions were the size of shoes, then gazelles were riding implements. Observe! Professor Kleekstra had pulled out her datapad, academic curiosity finally winning. The hunting instincts manifest even in juveniles. It's practicing killing techniques on inanimate objects. She's playing, Cal said flatly. Playing at murder. Playing at play. Dogs just play. It's like 90% of their personality. And what's the other 10%? Cal thought about it. Chewing on things they shouldn't and looking guilty about it later? Or maybe piddling on the bed. As if to demonstrate, Riot abandoned the stylus and waddled over to investigate a student's strapped lunch container. Before anyone could stop her, she'd managed to get her entire head stuck in it. Oh, Cal rushed over to extract her. Riot emerged, covered in what looked like phosphorescent algae paste, tail still wagging. Actually, this is the other 10%.
Your predator is broken,
observed a Jakindi from the safety of a desk. She's not broken, she's just, learning. Cal grabbed some tissues from his bag, trying to clean purple goo off Riot's face while she tried to eat the tissues. Puppies are basically drunk toddlers with teeth.
That's terrifying,
someone said.
That's adorable,
countered the Clicks, who had been steadily oozing closer.
May I attempt interaction?
Cal eyed the gelatinous being. You sure? She might try and lick you.
I'm mostly water. I think I'll survive.
Cal chuckled. No way, me too. Yeah, sure, go ahead, knock yourself out. The next few moments were crucial for interspecies relations. Riot approached the Clicks with the uncoordinated determination of someone who'd just discovered the universe contained friends she hadn't met yet. She sniffed. She tilted her head.
Then she attempted to pounce directly through the Clix's semi-solid form. The result was a puppy briefly suspended in translucent goo, paddling frantically while the Clix giggled, or at least made sounds Cal's translator interpreted as giggling.
It tackles,
The Clix exclaimed.
the tiny predator tackles.
This is undignified.
Professor Kleekstra muttered, but Cal noticed she'd moved closer, all 6 eyes tracking Riot's movements with what looked suspiciously like fascination. Riot extracted herself from the Clix with a wet pop, shook herself, spraying alien students with a mixture of puppy fur and Clix residue, and promptly sneezed. 3 more students fainted.
Is it expelling toxins?
A nervous Threnody asked from behind an overturned chair. She's expelling snot, Cal said. Completely non-toxic. Well, mostly.
Mostly.
I mean, I wouldn't recommend eating it.
Why would we? Do humans eat their pets' secretions?
What? No! Well, I mean, not on purpose. Look, can we focus on... The blast door suddenly shuddered to a complete stop, casting half the room in shadow. Emergency lighting bathed everything in an ominous red glow that made Riot look like some kind of tiny hellbeast. She barked at the lights, apparently offended by their audacity to exist. Oh, good, Cal muttered. She's entering her barking at nothing phase.
It's vocalizing.
A student pressed themselves against the far wall.
Is it calling for pack reinforcements?
She's calling for attention. There's a difference.
What is the difference?
Cal considered this. Though, I guess pack reinforcements might actually show up. Professor Kleekstra had apparently reached some kind of internal decision. She stepped forward, all 4 arms spread in what Cal hoped was a peaceful gesture and not preparation for combat.
Mr. Reed,
she said, her voice carefully controlled.
this creature,
Riot?
this Riot, is a juvenile of the species.
8 weeks old. That's like, Cal did quick math. Actually, I have no idea what the Galactic standard thing is for time. They're young, very young.
And adult specimens are
Bigger. Usually calmer. Sometimes. Cal thought about his neighbor's hyperactive Lan and German Shepherd mix back home. Depending on the breed.
breed.
The professor's stylus flew across her datapad.
There are subspecies.
Oh yeah, all shapes, sizes, and colors. From tiny ones that fit in your palm to ones that weigh more than me. The collective intake of breath suggested this was not comforting information.
And humans deliberately created this variety.
Over thousands of years, yeah. We bred them for different jobs, herding, hunting, guarding, companionship.
You bred biological weapons for companionship.
The professor's tone suggested she was reconsidering every assumption she'd ever made about humans. When you put it like that, it sounds weird.
It is weird!
Riot, perhaps sensing she was the topic of discussion, chose that moment to demonstrate her most devastating weapon. She sat down, tilted her head, and deployed what Cal's mom called puppy dog eyes. The effect was immediate. The Keelian made a sound their translator couldn't parse. 2 Morteki clutched each other. The Clix quivered.
What's it doing?
Someone whispered.
Why are its optical organs so large?
It's called being cute, Cal said. It's a survival mechanism. I think, anyway. Maybe they're just like that. Either way, she'll grow into her puppy dog eyes.
Survival through optical manipulation.
Pretty much. Professor Kleekstra approached slowly, as if Riot were an unexploded bomb, which, from her perspective, Cal supposed she might be. The professor extended one arm, stopping just outside of what she clearly considered the danger zone.
The creature appears to be waiting, she observed clinically. Is it preparing to strike?
She's waiting for you to pet her.
Pet?
Touch her, gently, on the head.
You want me to make contact with the predator?
I want you to pet a puppy. There's a difference.
What is the difference?
About 60 pounds and a lot of training. The professor's arm inched forward. The entire class held its breath. Even the emergency alarm seemed to quiet in anticipation. Contact. Riot's tail wagged harder. She leaned into the touch, making a small, contented sound that the translator gave up on entirely, just displaying happy noise, untranslatable.
It is soft,
Professor Kleekstra said, wonder creeping into her voice.
and warm. Why is it so warm?
Mammals run hot, Cal explained. It's the whole thing. Thermal regulation, metabolism.
It's vibrating.
Well, she's basically a furry happiness engine. The vibration means that she likes you. The professor added a second hand, then a third. By the time she was using all 4 arms to pet one tiny puppy, Cal knew the battle was won.
I'm documenting this for my dissertation,
Aginovax announced, body pulsing with excitement.
First contact between Galaxy Educator and Earth Predator Juvenile. This is historic.
This is ridiculous.
Someone grumbled, but Cal noticed they were recording too. Riot, living her best life, rolled onto her back to present her belly. The universal gesture for, I trust you completely, and also, rub my tummy, you coward.
It's exposing its vulnerable organs,
Kleekstra pulled back.
Is this some sort of perverse threat display?
It's a belly rub request.
It wants me to touch its vital organs.
She wants you to scratch her tummy. Feels nice.
But that would be it. In 6,000 years of Galaxy culture, we've never purposefully touched another being's digestive center.
First time for everything? The professor looked at Riot, who was now wiggling on her back, paws paddling the air. Academic curiosity won again?
For science,
she muttered, and carefully scratched Riot's belly. The puppy's legs started kicking automatically.
It's having a seizure!
It's a reflex, Cal said quickly. Totally normal. It just means that she's happy.
Happiness causes involuntary spasms in Earth creatures?
I mean, have you seen humans dance? That got a few nervous laughs. The tension in the room had shifted from, we're all gonna die, to, what is even happening right now? Which Cal counted as progress. Campus security finally arrived. 2 more techie in full environmental suits, wielding catch poles and tranq rifles. They stopped short at the scene. Professor Kleekstra on the floor using all 4 arms to pet a puppy. Students forming a cautious semicircle. And Cal sitting cross-legged like this was all perfectly normal.
Where is the threat?
The lead officer demanded. Everyone pointed at Riot. She looked up at the attention and wagged harder.
That.
The officer lowered his rifle.
It's small.
Size is irrelevant,
Professor Kleekstra insisted, though she hadn't stopped petting.
It has predator genetics, pack bonding, protective instincts.
She protects me from suspicious leaves, Cal offered, and from her own shadow, sometimes plastic bags. The second officer approached cautiously. Riot immediately rolled back over and trotted toward him, tail wagging so hard she nearly tipped over.
Is she approaching for combat?
She's approaching for friendship. Brace yourself. Riot reached the officer and immediately began trying to untie his bootlaces.
It is attacking my restraint systems?
She's playing with your shoelaces. She thinks that they're toys.
My defensive equipment is a toy.
Everything's a toy if you're a puppy. The officer watched, bemused, as Riot waged war on his left boot.
It's not very good at it.
She's learning.
Learning combat techniques?
Learning that shoelaces taste terrible but are fun to chew. But, well, I don't know. Maybe they do taste good to her. Dogs' noses have a sense of smell that can be 10,000 to 100,000 times more sensitive than mine. Bloodhounds are even more sensitive. Someone in the crowd shuddered at the word bloodhound. The lead officer had removed his helmet, revealing features that might have been confusion.
This is what humans bond with? These creatures that malfunction and leak and respond to tactile stimulation.
Pretty much, yeah.
And they protect you.
Cal thought about it. Well, my childhood dog once barked at a burglar until the guy gave up and left. Does that count?
Your companion successfully defended your territory against an invader.
The officer looked at his partner.
That's actually impressive.
Riot, having defeated the bootlace, or at least gotten bored with it, noticed the professor was no longer petting her. This was clearly unacceptable. She toddled back over and began pawing at Kleekstra's lowest arm. "What does it want now?" the professor asked, though her tone had softened considerably. "More pets. The petting shouldn't have stopped, and that was a mistake on your part. The creature demands continuous affection." "Welcome to dog ownership." Kleekstra resumed petting, using one hand to take notes with her stylus. "Fascinating. The bonding mechanism is bilateral. The creature shows affection regardless of species." "The dogs are good like that," Cal agreed. "They don't really care what you look like as long as you're nice to them. Even though you're not their biological pack?" "We become their pack. It's kind of the point." A security alert beeped. The officer checked his communicator.
The Terran Embassy confirms one riot is registered to you. Female, Earth Canine, domestic variety.
He paused.
It says here she's classified as an emotional support animal.
Yeah, she helps with my anxiety. Cal looked a little guilty. But I worry that I just sort of also gave her anxiety. "Anxiety's contagious?" someone squeaked. Cal sighed. No, it's just a symptom of our pack bonding. Riot can pick up on my emotions, and sometimes that feeds into her own emotions. Neither of us like to be alone, so transferring here is great and all, but it's hard to be away from my family, so I got Riot. The room went quiet again. "And yet this predator," the professor said slowly, "provides emotional regulation for you." "Well, yeah. Hard to be anxious when someone's that excited to see you exist." Riot, as if to demonstrate, had discovered the professor's lower left arm and was gently gnawing on it with the focus of a philosopher contemplating existence. "It's gumming me," Kleekstra observed with detached fascination, "testing the durability of my exoskeleton with juvenile teeth." "She's teething. You can tell her no if you want." "No." The professor's other arms continued typing. "This is valuable data. The pressure's actually quite soothing." And that's how Introduction to Xenobiology became the university's first interactive Earth fauna seminar. By the time the blast doors finally retracted, Riot had made friends with half the class. She demonstrated her limited vocabulary, sit, and a very unreliable stay, her house training progress, mostly successful, and her ability to fall asleep in the middle of chaos, currently snoring in a Genovac student's lap. "So," Professor Kleekstra summarized, reviewing her notes, "they hunt, they protect, they obey, they malfunction. They require constant maintenance, they invade personal space, they leak fluids, they make noise, they demand affection." She looked up. "And humans find this comforting?" "Pretty much," Cal said, gently extracting Riot from her new friend. The puppy yawned, showing every tiny little tooth. "We call them humanity's best friend." "Why?" Cal considered the question while Riot tried to eat his sleeve. "Because they love us exactly as much as we love them. Sometimes more. Usually more, actually. Even though you're a different species." "Especially because we're a different species. Dogs don't care about the stuff that makes humans complicated. They just care that you exist and you got hands for petting. Some are more complex. Working breeds typically require way more complex and frequent interaction. They're usually bred for specific jobs or niches, though." The classroom digested this.
That is,
The Threnody struggled for words.
either the most beautiful or most terrifying thing I've ever heard.
"Yeah, Cal agreed. Has dogs for you. A small voice from the back called out.
Where can I get one?
Professor Kleekstra dropped her stylus.
Miss Wessex, you cannot be serious.
The small predator was warm,
The student defended.
and it made happy sounds when I touched it. My anxiety about finals decreased by 30%.
Mine too,
Another admitted.
The creature's presence was oddly soothing,
A third added.
even though it could theoretically kill me.
She absolutely could not, Cal protested.
Let us believe,
Someone called out.
it makes the cuteness more palatable.
Professor Kleekstra surveyed her classroom. Students comparing notes, sharing videos they'd secretly recorded. Some already searching Earth pet adoption requirements on their devices.
I've created monsters,
She muttered.
No,
Cal corrected, standing to leave as the period ended. You've created dog people.
that's worse.
That's worse, he agreed cheerfully. As he packed up, Riot now properly contained in her carrier, mesh windows for airflow and visibility. He wasn't completely irresponsible. The professor called out.
Mr. Reed, bring her to next week's class.
Seriously?
We'll be covering human-animal bonding in more detail. A live demonstration, it would be...
She paused, choosing her words very carefully.
educational.
You want to pet her again? All six eyes narrowed.
That is a serious accusation.
Your lower left arm still has Riot's drool on it.
That's circumstantial evidence at best.
Cal grinned. See you Tuesday, Professor. As he left, he heard the peepany who'd screamed earlier whisper.
Do you think that they make them in hypoallergenic?
Outside, Riot poked her head out of the carrier, watching the stars through the Academy's transparent corridors. Cal scratched behind her ears. You did good today, girl. And you really expanded some minds. Riot barked once, tail wagging. In the distance, something exploded. 3 alarms went off. A containment breach warning flashed. Just another day at Galactic Unity Academy. Come on, Cal told his tiny predator. Let's get you home before someone realizes you ate the professor's stylus. Riot burped, looking extraordinarily pleased with herself. Yeah, good girl.